Former Prasa CEO Lucky Montana says the State Capture Commission has been compromised. He's giving testimony related to the passenger rail agency. He was scheduled to testify in January, but his testimony was postponed. Montana then slammed Commission Chair, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, accusing him of being biased. He claimed the cancellation was intended to block his evidence, which he says is damning. Last year, Montana lodged a complaint against Zondo, saying there's a good chance the Commission Chair is captured. Michael Appel is tracking this for us and joins us live. Michael, good evening. Not the first time we've seen accusations against Deputy Chief Justice Zondo. So Montana painting himself as someone who ran a tight ship at Prasa with very limited expenditure. Tell us more about his version, what he said today.
2014-2015 or 2013-2014 financial year, only 100 million in irregular expenditure. Quote, only 100 million. Those were his words. In the years subsequent to that, it would jump significantly, irregular expenditure at Prasa, to 550 million, 12 billion, and then eventually 20 billion. So he says during his tenure, he ran a pretty tight ship, as you say, and the majority of the country's trains were actually running. He says that from 2018 to today, he estimates about 30 billion rand in destruction of Prasa's infrastructure, and he blames that on certain contracts, security contracts that were cancelled. So he says that there is a lot of accusations that have been levelled against him, but they all remain untested, even though there are certain findings in the courts, as well as a very damning public protector's report from 2015, which is when he was removed as the board chair, as the CEO of Prasa, and that was named derailed, which found massive amounts of misappropriation of funds, financial maladministration. It found targeting of certain whistleblowers, and it looked at the irregular awarding of contracts worth 3 billion rand. So there is his version of events, there are the court's version of events, and he says, I accept it, I see it in the court judgments, but I reject it. So of course you don't have to agree with the outcome of court judgments, but you do have to respect them. He says he respects it, but he rejects it. So he was asked about the goings-on at Prasa now and how we got here. Here's Mr. Montana.
The country can't run 70% of the trains that I ran. Okay, I ran the number of trains, held people accountable. Chair, I think maybe I should request one day for you and Mr. Soni during lunchtime, say, let's go to Park Station. And you see the disaster in 3 years, what it took us to build in 10 years. The boat of Popo Molefe destroyed in less than 3 years, Chair. And they're not held accountable. Let me make this final point. Mr. Shriver Manuel was here, Chair, when he testified. I think it was still in 2018. He made a very profound point. He said, and I think he's one of the reasons why I agreed to tell you. He said, Chair, it's very important that we go back and look at what happened at that time. You see, now people say state capture, corruption, and then we get confused. Let's get to the details. Why were trains running at 84, 85% when Montana was there? Why today we can't even run trains at 20%?
Lucky Montana also repeating his view that the Commission is biased. So he had words to say about Justice Zondo, but also saying that Vasoni, the evidence leader, is conflicted.
Yes, so he was given an opportunity to make an opening statement this morning. He reiterated his belief, this time before the Commission physically, because he's previously told the media and in the statements that he's released to the media that he believes that the Commission is biased and following a predetermined agenda. But he said it to the chair's face this morning, and he also said that he believes that Advocate Vasoni is conflicted because he wants got briefed by Worksman's attorneys. Worksman's attorneys was brought in by the board of Prasa, I believe, to look into irregular expenditure. So he says that you have somebody who once gave a legal opinion to Worksman's attorneys, who's now the evidence leader here, clearly is conflicted. Advocate Sony saying, I was never briefed, or I never got briefed by Worksman's attorneys related to anything related to Mr. Montana or Prasa. He says, I got briefed on them on an issue maybe 15 years ago. So he's saying that that's completely incorrect. And as for the issue of being of bias, he says that there are just certain witnesses that don't fit this predetermined agenda that the Commission is actively looking to block. Here's Mr. Montana.
This Commission has been very selective in the application. Okay? I'll tell you that when I was accused, when the accusation of the allegation about my properties, I watched here Mr. Sony and the chair making certain type of statements. But not only that, chair, you invited everyone who accused me. There was someone who actually put an affidavit that says, I'm a businessman. I've done a property deal with Mr. Montana. I don't work for government. I've got nothing to do with Prasa. What did this commission do? They kept him aside not to come here, chair, to hear a different view. The affidavit that's been served on me, Mr. Andre Wagner. Okay, so that is the commission serving, chair. No, this one we want, this one we do not want.
Michael, has Lucky Montana wrapped for the day?
No, he has not. The questioning process has been slow. He's been giving very long answers. He's been asked several times to try and keep his answers a bit short, to curtail them and answer specifically to the questions asked. The Deputy Chief Justice saying that he's likely going to take us to 7:30, 8 o'clock sometime. And I did confirm with Advocate Sony that there's only one day set down for Mr. Montana, and there is a lot that still needs to be covered, from the 2 toll trains, the Swifambo deal, to the various properties that Mr. Montana purchased around Hurlingham and in Waterkloof, and with money not of his own coming from people who had been granted contracts by Prasa. So there's a lot for Mr. Montana that still needs to be put to him, and I don't believe we've gotten there yet. I think we were just starting on the Swifambo matter when I came out.
Well, I'll let you get right back to it. Thank you so much, eNCA reporter Michael Appel from the State Capture Commission of Inquiry.